What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Bittersweet Podcast. It's your girl, Tana.
And I'm Rahel.
And we're back in the studio.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good. I'm hot.
I know I'm hot too.
It's hot. It's very hot in this studio. It's either way too hot or way too cold. Like, what's the deal? I don't know.
It's Melbourne. What do you mean? What's the deal? I don't know. I'm sick and tired of... I don't mind cold. I don't mind hot weather. It's just like be consistent.
Yeah, the in-between is like killing me. I hate it.
And I feel like it's worse now. I feel like we'll have like 3 really nice days and then it'll just be raining. And then like the next day, I don't know. I feel like Melbourne's doing the most now. We haven't had a summer.
We haven't. This has not been a summer. Like, I feel like I can't enjoy a nice day because it's always like just crazy the following. But today it's hot.
Yeah.
And yeah, this studio is very hot.
It's hot. I know. Let's just jump right into the tea of this one. Yeah, because we're gonna have.
We always talk so much at the start. It's like, girl, shut up.
There's some things to talk about.
Yeah.
Before we do get in there, I have another riddle for you, Rahel.
Oh my god, no!
You should have prepared to. You should have came with something, but I was like, no. I liked last week was so funny.
Oh my god, leave me alone.
Let me give you another one. You had the chance. You could have thought, like, let me get Wintana back, But you didn't.
Oh my god. Okay.
Are you ready?
No, I'm not ready because I don't want to do it, but whatever. Let's go.
The more you take, the more you leave behind. What am I?
The more you take, the more you leave behind. That's how I figured stuff out. That's why I think there must be something with my, like, the way my intelligence works, because I can't do riddles. Like, I can't. You don't understand. The more you take, the more you leave behind.
Yes.
The more you take, you're taking a lot of something.
Yeah. The more you're leaving behind.
I don't know.
You can't guess. Like, you can't even guess.
No, I can't, because nothing is coming to my mind. Like, there's so many, like, the more you take, what is it? Is it a thing? Or is it like something like trust, or, like, when it's like a...
No, it's like, it's not an object. It's more of an action.
It's an action.
Yeah.
The more you take, the more you leave behind. I don't know. I don't know.
You give up?
Yeah.
Footsteps.
I actually hate riddles. I hate them.
I'm so sorry. They're actually funnier for me. It's getting funnier. I'm enjoying this.
I'm not doing it anymore. Like, you're so fucking evil. Next solo
come
episode.
Prepared, babes.
I will. I was just like, can we just like let this be? I thought it was like,
it wasn't a one and done. This is like a thing now.
No.
This is a thing. You're going to get good at riddles by the end of
I'm not. I'm going to like research all riddles so I have the answers.
Okay,
where are you getting your riddles?
I'm not telling you where I'm getting my riddles from. I'm not telling you. I have the best source right now.
What is it?
I'm not going to tell you. Shall we just move on to the
You're so annoying.
Reaction of the week?
Yes, let's do it.
So we saw this post and it said, I effed this big guy on the football team 2 out of 10. I couldn't feel
2 out of 10 like
experience.
Okay,
2 out of 10 experience.
Yeah.
She wasn't feeling it. I couldn't feel nothing at all. And then this motherfucker out here handing out chlamydia and got the nerve not to get checked.
What the
How are you in grad school and you're not handling your business? Anonymous. Gosh.
God damn.
I would be so...
What are you talking about?
Babes. Everyone's about to find out.
Yeah, of course.
Everybody's about to find out.
I can't believe she did this anonymous. So before we talk about it, we obviously looked at some of the
reactions.
Which actually killed me. Someone was like, it's almost 2024 and you let a dude hit you raw.
Ooh.
Why is it her fault?
It's not her fault.
These people are so
But
toxic.
also safe sex. Safe sex.
Well, yeah, of course.
But
it's like the way, like, mind you, YOU is in capitals.
Yeah.
Like, you. Unpopular opinion. If you can't feel anything, he's not the problem. You are.
Oh my God. Get an education, my friend. Get educated. This is why sex ed needs to be like
straight
pushed
up
in the most. Like that's the dumbest thing I've heard. But the one before that, where it was like the protection one, I feel like also we need to realize that people that are doing that, they don't care. They don't care. Obviously, this guy doesn't care to get checked. Doesn't care about his own self and hygiene.
Yeah.
Like you need to move with that mentality.
Yeah.
Of like, not it's your problem, but babes, you got to protect yourself because the streets are ghetto.
It's ghetto out here. Yeah. 100%. But it's like the burden should it's on the other person.
Yeah.
Like you're actually disgusting.
Yeah.
And shit happens. Like, you know.
Yeah.
Obviously you need to be smart, but it happens. Someone else was like, lol, you wanted to fuck because he played football. Got what you deserved. Now go find you a good scholarly, boring guy.
That's so dumb. These responses are so stupid.
I'm laughing. Like, it's so I'm just laughing out of just the chaos, like, and just the absolute disrespect of these comments is insane. It's crazy because literally everyone in the comments is like, why the fuck are you hitting it raw? Okay. Always assume that all humans are unsafe until you can factually decide otherwise. You don't know him for real. She should have made him strap up. Many of these men don't care about themselves correctly, so why would you matter?
That's what I said. Like, people do not care. Like, people do not care. For some reason as well, in 2024, I don't know if it's just me, but like, I feel like STDs are just not a thing of the current.
Yeah, like people
like,
aren't.
can we move on? Like, why are we still catching STDs like that? I just don't. I feel like, I don't know if it's like we're more educated, people are more like, people are smarter, if it's safe sex, if it's just like more embarrassing. I don't know, but it's like, why do you have an STD? Sorry. It's just, I don't know. I think obviously the embarrassment is on the person that spread it, but
it is, of course. I feel like that is straight up assault. Like having sex with someone knowing that you have a sexually transmitted infection is assault. Like you should not be able to do that. And chlamydia, thank God, is more, it's like treatable. But people be doing this with like gonorrhea.
Is gonorrhea not treatable?
Herpes. It's treatable, but it's like intense.
You forever have it?
No, herpes is the
herpes
one.
Is
herpes
forever,
is the one that's forever. So
Yeah.
if someone's passing that along to you, it's just, I think it's disgusting, and I think that
God forbid.
I'm so shook with everyone in the comments being like, well, why didn't you strap up? Or like, why didn't you tell him? It's like, why is he so gross?
Why is he? But what happens if they don't know they have it? You know what I mean? That's a different story.
Yeah, if they don't know, of course. But like, be more, if you're out here like continuously like sleeping with girls unprotected, probably get checked.
100%.
Like, probably do that. Like, you're actually crazy.
And
she probably found out because she got checked. Also, with chlamydia, there's no, apparently, for men, there's no symptoms. So that's why it's even more important to like get checked regularly. You don't know. You could have it for
that
years.
would be the biggest, like, if I caught an STD, I think that would be it for me. Like, I would be so devastated. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and revenge is top of my mind. What the hell? Revenge. I don't know. Like, some form of embarrassment or shame, because it's like, why are you out here doing that knowingly anyway?
Did you see, there was this girl on Twitter, she posted a screenshot of the guy. I think he gave her, it was AIDS.
No.
He had AIDS. And she posted a screenshot of him. It went viral, and she was like, this man, like, stay away from him. He's literally out here like spreading this disease. And I mean, bless her, because obviously like now she could have like really helped like a lot of women that would have just been unknowingly like with this man.
But imagine how many people aren't on social media who haven't seen that. Like, what kind of sick person do you have to be to intentionally go out and spread any sort of disease?
I know, sick. Obviously there's shame and whatnot attached to it, but it's no excuse. That's what I'm saying. Like,
what do you mean there's shame attached to it?
Like, maybe you're embarrassed, like.
But what does that have to do with spreading it?
Yeah.
Like, you're actually just a bad person.
The thing is, like, you know how apparently, like, if you have an STI, you're supposed to message or like let all the previous people that you slept with know.
No, I know. Can you imagine?
Oh my god, that's my worst nightmare. Like,
it'd be like message, block,
yeah,
send it. I don't ever want to see you again.
Yeah, I think that's the right thing to do though. A lot of people don't do that. They find out, they just don't say anything because they're embarrassed. But it's like, you need to go through your contacts.
Yeah, and
you need to think about everyone that you may have had unprotected sex with. But I think this is a college thing.
Yeah,
like these people are in college. I think it's a different world. I think when you're that young, you're definitely out here like having a lot more unprotected sex.
Still, I feel like you never know. There are people that are also grown ass people doing the same thing.
Yeah.
Also, to be in college doesn't necessarily mean you're young.
True.
You are just, obviously they can be, for the most part they are, but like, I don't know. Is young really like that? I feel like young is like after high school, early 20s.
18, 19, 20, 21, 22. That's young. 23. That's still
23
young.
is not young. Well, you're grown now. 22
I think
is like you're kind of grown now.
Nah, 22 is still young.
I
really feel like 23 is like the 23,
cutoff.
24 is like the cutoff where it's like, girl, wake up.
Yeah, I don't know. It's crazy. Disgusting.
How evil.
Straight up. All right, let's get into the bulk of this episode. We want to talk about the Receipts podcast.
Yes.
For people that don't know, I feel like the Receipts podcast is like the mother of Black podcasts. Yeah, one of them anyway. Because I remember when I first got into podcasting, or even listening, like not even just like getting into it like this, but it was listening. It was the Receipts.
How did you find out about them?
I think someone around me like mentioned them, and I listened to it. And I feel like social media wasn't as like the way it is now, so you weren't seeing like different clips and people like, it wasn't like that. For people who don't know about the Receipts podcast, it is a podcast hosted by 3 women. So 2 of them are Black, Audrey and Tolly T, and then there's one Latina girl who is Milenna. And yeah, they've been doing this for 7 years and recently split up, which is really sad, obviously. I think it's sad whenever a podcast split.
It is.
It's so sad. Whether it's good or bad, I think it's just like a sad thing to see that happen. But it was interesting to hear about how it happened and how it blew up on social media. So the tea is that 2 of them, Tolly and Audrey, stayed on, the 2 Black women, and then Milenna left. But it was very abrupt, and there was this whole like, what happened between them, da 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 da. Then the girls jumped on a podcast. They rebranded, jumped on, and they spoke about how there was a situation that occurred, and she basically left with no notice. And when she left, they were just kind of like, obviously Audrey, one of them was just having a baby, and then the other one was kind of working in the background to rebrand. They came back, and now they're doing their podcast. But it was like, there was this whole thing of like, why'd they leave, blah blah blah. And Milenna jumped on and said that she didn't just leave abruptly. The situation was that the dynamic between Milenna was talking about the dynamic between the 3 of them on the podcast, and she was talking about how she didn't like it, she felt left out, or there was obviously like a weird dynamic going on. And then I think the news came back to Tolly, and she found out, and basically after that Milenna like sent in the resignation letter. There's 2 sides. It's really hard because
messy,
when the girls jumped on the podcast, they were talking about how, they thought it was something that could be fixed. They were really disappointed that she came on and she made like such a quick decision without factoring them in. And then the internet turned around and obviously blamed them for bullying her and doing all that. They blamed Tolly and Audrey for bullying her. And then they came back on and they were just like, why did you guys not give us the grace in any sort of way? It was like immediately it was our fault as 2 Black women. You guys just didn't even give us the space. You didn't even consider that maybe there was another side to it. And then they were like really upset that Milenna didn't even address the problem during that time.
She just kind of like let the online chatter happen.
She just let it happen. And I feel like it was just so messy. First of all, it's just really sad. I feel like when you do something like podcasting, or not even just podcasting, like any sort of business, work, whatever, and you're working so closely with people, you build something deeper than a relationship, a friendship. It's like they were talking about how they had a sisterhood. Like obviously we can talk about it and say how close we are and how close we've gotten and how most of our time is spent with each other. And then like then it might be like your family or whatever, but it's like we see each other all the time. And for them to be doing it for 7 years and then it kind of just like ended in that way is really, really sad. It's the first thing I thought.
I would say that was my first kind of reaction as well. I think it's like I can't imagine. I feel like we've been in this for going on 5 years. Girl, I know. Sometimes it's like, 7 years is crazy, but I'm like, we've actually been doing this for ages.
100%.
But like 7 years is obviously longer, and like they've really been like consistent. Like I think they said they had never like missed a week. Like they would just until they took that big break between like I think October and like January. But yeah, I think it's like really, really, really sad. I was not a consistent receipts listener. I did listen to like a few episodes. So and even when I kind of like learnt about this whole situation, I listened to the recent episode that they did addressing the situation, and I kind of made my own like assessments about that. And then I kind of looked at the way that Milenna left, and I found that regardless, I think a conversation was deserved. Like I think you can be stressed, you can feel like overlooked, not listened to, and all of these things, but to leave that abruptly is, I think that's the one consistent thing where I'm like, that's crazy. But there's so much
going on in the background
where it's like, that's like, I think what social media does all the fucking time. And I think they actually said it in the episode where they addressed it. There was like, there always has to be a villain and a victim. And that is just not, I don't think that this situation is that. I don't think that there was like, there's a bad person and a good person. I think it was just a whole lot of like fucked up dynamics that happen when you're working with your friends.
100%.
Like,
well, it's interesting because they weren't friends. Like they jumped on as like 3 random girls. One of them made a post or tweet or whatever, and then they were like, I want to do it, and then they made a podcast. Crazy. And like you said, I feel like there's so many things that go into it. I wasn't like a loyal listener of the receipts, but I did listen to enough episodes, especially at the start. Like I was listening to it and then I kind of just like fell off and found other things. But they you can tell the dynamic between the 3 and how Tolly and Audrey, I feel like, get along more. And Milenna's kind of like, you know, she still is, it's a girl chat, so they all can like jump into conversation, whatever. Personally, I see it as like they might have similar interests. They have more topics that they find more relatable, experiences that they can relate on. And that's just like, you're 2 black women that grew up in the UK. Your environments, the people you know, are probably going to be very like similar. So because of that, you just like vibe off each other more. And there's little things that people say, oh, they cut her off when they do this and I do that. And I think it's just, I don't feel like they bullied her, to be honest. I think like there was a dynamic between the 2 of them that was just different to what they had. But I feel like Milenna also probably felt uncomfortable in that space. And there's probably moments where they did make her feel uncomfortable. Or like one of them, you know, it was just like, I don't know. You can't really say, and I can't be like, yeah, they intentionally did that. But I just feel like naturally they probably relate to each other more. And she felt that and probably felt like that she just felt like she didn't fit into that dynamic. And then on top of all of that, there were probably small like instances where they just were not clicking. Like 7 years of doing something, your relationship is always going to go up and down. So I feel like you're obviously questioning what's going on and like questioning where you fit and if you do fit. And I think you're also growing, like they're growing as people. She was the only one who had a kid. I just feel like there was differences in their dynamics, to be honest. I don't know what happened behind the scenes. We can't talk about like what happened behind the scenes because we really don't know. But yeah, it's just like you can tell like she didn't really fit the dynamic.
Do you feel like there was any like awkwardness, because I was looking at comments and stuff, and people were really out here being like, it was uncomfortable to watch.
Sometimes
I literally stopped listening to it because of
the
way that the dynamic was.
I feel like there was awkwardness. Like sometimes I would listen to it and you could tell that she was just like miskin, just kind of like like she would just kind of shut down sometimes. And I also feel like it's because someone like Tolly, who has a huge personality, who's very unapologetic, who's very like that, and someone like Milenna, who is sensitive, who's like soft and like not even just say soft, because I feel like they're all soft, they're all very like feminine, but I just feel like some are more outspoken than the others, and I can see that happening. I can see where like and if that person is not looking at it like it's a problem, then they're just going to double down on how they talk. If they have an argument and they're very like they want to say their piece, it could be that too. There's a lot of clash in personality, and then because of that, power dynamic shift. You know what I mean? Like and then you start to like mold into that. Everyone kind of goes into what they are, or like the roles that they play, and then that carries on. And I'm assuming they're not like, are they having conversations about it? Are they because
well, you would assume not, because judging from what I was listening to, they were very much like, this caught me completely off guard. We had no idea, like when we left the last episode we thought we were good, and I found that a bit crazy. Like how do you not really know? Be like, this came as a complete and utter shock is a bit wild to me, because I think if everyone else listening can pick up on an awkward dynamic, you in the podcast should be able to pick up on that. So the other side of that though is like, maybe they were just like, if she has an issue, she can bring it up. Yeah,
and that's the vibe that I get. Like,
and that's like, I feel like that's kind of fair to an extent, but at the same time, maybe that's why it's like, you don't know what went on behind the scenes. Maybe she did, and they like kind of shut it down. Maybe they were just like, girl, just talk. And she was like, so
also they weren't friends before that. I think that is a big difference. Like, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. Like that can also be a really good thing.
Exactly.
But the fact that they don't have a friendship, they didn't have a friendship, it developed with when they were working together. They're like colleagues that are good friends because they're always together, is also like a big thing as well, because they probably don't feel like that responsibility or like the need to be that empathetic or understanding, which is sad, obviously. And I don't really know, this is just me throwing out assumptions, but it's like, I can imagine if it was that much of a surprise, I imagine you guys record together and you guys go and do your own thing. You know what I mean?
But that's the thing. That's what they didn't say. They were like, no, we were cool.
We were sisters. Like, they talk about their sisterhood.
We would go out, like, and that's why they were like, we were so shocked, because like literally like a couple days before we were out, like, good, you know?
Well, that was the day that they had the issue, wasn't it? Like, she was out, and then she was like, they heard that she said something about the Tolly.
I think apparently like from what I like listened to, Tolly, she said that a couple of days before they were like good, they went out and stuff like that, but obviously like she got a message, or like she found out like through her friends that Milenna had a conversation with this other person about the podcast and like the dynamics and how she was feeling like really uncomfortable and upset about it. And then this friend told Tolly and was like, this is the situation. And then Tolly was like, she was like, I'm the type of person that like I react when I'm angry. Like I don't want to say anything I regret. So she was like, I think she was like to Milenna, like, I don't want to talk to you right now. Like I just need time to, I want to process. I don't know what she said.
She processed,
but I think she just wanted to process it. And then that literal, like a couple days later, that was when Milenna was like,
I'm out.
She just sent the letter and just like dipped. So I think the way when they're like, oh, I was so surprised, it's like there's different meaning to the word. You can be shocked that it happened, but like you knew that, like surely you know that
she's
like
in this place,
she's upset and like she's not happy, and like so you can't really be surprised. Like you need to be able to see these things coming. I think it's part of a business dynamic. And like, as much as they weren't friends, I think it would have made sense to have a conversation of like, how's the dynamic happening? Like, is everyone happy? Like, is everyone good? Like, are you feeling like you want to continue? Like, you know, those types of, maybe not as blunt as that, but like, you know,
an actual like just check up.
in, like
and
a check in.
Yeah, it's hard because it's like you don't know if they did or they didn't. It's just more
Exactly.
the way it went down is like obviously looks like they did it.
Yeah,
the way things happen.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think obviously overall it's sad, and you can't really say these girls were the villains and these girls were this girl was the victim or whatever it was, because obviously on their end as well, it's kind of like they're seeing it as it's very selfish. She's about to have a baby. She is, you know, heavily pregnant, about to have a baby, and you just decided to up and go, when really this needs to be a conversation. This is our careers, you know what I mean? And it's like you're making a big career change without consulting your team, which is crazy, because it's like we're a team. Like if Tolly wasn't working in the background, how do we rebrand? How do we do all that? It's like you've just set them back, you know? So there's that side of it, which I think was really unfair. But also, if she was feeling like a certain type of way and she hadn't been listened to, you guys are just ignoring her and whatever, does she really owe, like, she owes a friend that, or she in a like, to be someone that is like, I don't know, I just feel like that's a decent thing to do, but you don't have to do it as well.
Yeah.
So it just really depends on what the dynamic was, to be honest.
Yeah, it does. It does. I agree. I think, yeah, it's hard to say what was fair and like what wasn't. I do think like, I genuinely, like, when I was watching a few things of them together as a threesome, it was looking like orcs. Yeah, it was looking like there was two, like, that's why it never works.
Yeah,
a group of three never works.
I always thought a group of three worked.
I mean, it could work if you're all on the same page. Doing a podcast, I think you're so involved, and it's like so important to be able to feel like you're being like your authentic self, and like your opinions are heard, and that your time is like valued. I think it'd be really shit to sit in that and kind of feel like
you're not really,
it wasn't.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think bottom line, I think like a conversation, yeah, I think
should
a
have
been had.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy to just live like that.
It's so crazy how things, and I've seen this kind of stuff happen with podcasts before. It's happened. Have I ever seen a group split? I'm trying to think. I've seen things like, you know, like the obvious, it's the two, and it's like very obvious that they are very different. You know what I mean? Like one, and it was Bobo, you know, Bobo from Bobo and Flex, and this other girl. It was like one of the podcasts that I was first listening to as well. Yeah. And the other one, just like, you could tell Bobo's very like, what's the word?
Is she like one of those?
Unconventional. Okay. She's like unconventional. She likes to dig deep into theory. She likes to challenge a lot. Yeah. She's not with the status quo. Do you know what I mean? And then the other girl is very opposite. Like she's a bit more sensible. She's a bit more like, I don't know. I just feel like she, like the way that she would argue for things, it was just like every time Bobo would say something, she's like, oh my God, like what? Like really? You think that? Like, and it's just two different conversations. One is not being able to relate, and then the other one is not being able to reach her full like potential of where the conversation could go. And it just wasn't, you could tell they were not vibing. Yeah. And then eventually they split. I remember I spoke to you about it and we were like, yikes, like that's so awkward. And then Bobo went and like started a podcast with another girl, which ended up being a perfect, it was Flex, Bobo and Flex, and they were like a hit, you know, and that really worked. And I think there's obviously that dynamic where it's like you're just not compatible. You know, it might be like you guys have great friendship outside of this, you guys have good conversations outside of this, but then when it comes down to like producing something consistently at a level where you can both kind of, you know, like explore different things and you can take it different places and you can have arguments and bounce back and a lot more needs to be in sync. Like even so with these girls, it's like if one is more sensitive and one is out here like dishing out jokes or like constantly shutting you down with certain things, but then and you can't bounce back, and that's just how she banters, then obviously there's something really off working, there. And then if you're too like not opinionated, but if you don't give someone, if this person's not giving you enough space to speak, then also at the same time, like, maybe this is not the space for you too. And not to say that Milenna shouldn't be in this space, but I'm saying if I felt like, okay, these people are not giving me the respect that I deserve and the space to equally talk, then, you know, why am I here? Because the listeners liked all three of them. It wasn't just the two of you, you know what I mean? She made the podcast as well. So it's like, if you feel at some point you're not really, sometimes it's just like things evolve and you evolve and you're going this way and that person's going that way, but it's just sticky.
It can be sticky.
It's sticky when it ends like the way it does, especially for a show that's like highly rated.
Well, I think that's why it's important to like to talk and communicate with one another, because those are things that, if addressed, can be figured out. I think, like, obviously, like if me, for example, I'm like more of a quiet person, you know, but I think I am also like very happy to listen and like ask questions, and I think I am accepting of our dynamic, but also like you're not the type of person that's not gonna like let me talk.
Let you talk.
You know, that just like never happens. So that
I think at the start, I remember I was a bit like, like I would just ramble on about a point.
Yeah, but the thing is, I can still find. I'm still like, obviously, like that's changed.
Yeah, like you have to like consciously take a step back.
And I think like I've said to you, I'm like, oh, I feel like I've said sometimes, like, I just want to talk more. Like, maybe if you just, you know, like, it's awkward, but it's like we've spoken about it. And also, like, I push myself to be more, like, I have to insert myself. And if I don't, then, like, I'm going to, like, I could potentially not have much of an impact or influence in a podcast episode. So when we have guests, for example, I'm kind of like, you know, come on, like I have to like, So I think it's important to, and I'm sure that's what she did, but I think that may be coupled with the fact that it's like a duo. It's like Tolly and Audrey. Like it might have been even harder to kind of overcome that situation, but
I feel bad for her as well. Like, I don't know, I feel bad for all of them for like that shift, you know what I mean? But
that's why I'm like, it doesn't feel like a villain victim situation. It kind of feels like a bit of a, just, it's sad the way
it feels like an overdue conversation just didn't happen. And you guys, like, it ended up like turning sour, but it didn't. It really didn't need to be. Like, I feel like it could have been the same ending, but just like a little bit nicer. You know what I mean? She could have left, good spirits. They would have had the end of the last episode. And she could have gone.
You know what's crazy? I was like, let me just kind of understand this dynamic that everyone's talking about, where it's like, you know, a bit awkward and Milenna's really quiet. So I listened to the episode before, the very last episode before they broke up, and there was the first, because you know how they do dilemmas? Yeah. There was a dilemma. It was like the very first dilemma of the episode, and it was like talking about, oh, hey, like, I met this girl. I really liked her, blah, blah, blah. And anyway, she ended up ghosting her. That's what happened. Yeah. And she ghosted her, like, blocked her off everything. No communication, just ghost. And then they're giving their advice. And Milenna is like, she's like, absolutely not. Like, you are not the victim in this situation. It's the girl that decided to just not communicate with you, and without any conversation, without any without any you know, to just, oh my god, I was literally listening to it and I was like, babe, this is like so awkward, because that's literally what you did. Like, she was going in, she's like, you deserved a conversation. And obviously it's a different situation, but I was kind of like, that's so interesting that that's your take, because you literally, after that episode, did that to
but there was a huge break.
Well, I guess Yeah, but I was still kind of like, because when I heard the dilemma, I was expecting her to have a different take. I thought she'd be like, people, sometimes it's hard for them to be able to speak up when, I don't know.
But to be fair, like, I feel like that's life. Like, how many times have I, like, given advice on something, but I do something different? You know what I mean? Like, it's
yeah.
It's such a situation. And I think, like, maybe when you're like, because I feel like I'm jumping between two. Like, I understand the girls, like the Tolly and Audrey, because it's like, speak, or like this is this is equally your platform, and it's not our responsibility to make you realize that this is your platform as well. You have to realize that you've built it with us, and that's what it is. But then also it is their responsibility to make her feel comfortable, just like they make each other feel comfortable and whatever. But yeah, like, I think when you get into the situation and you don't know what to do and you're overwhelmed and you're just like, this is years of build up, and like, I feel like I just don't fit in. Deuces. Plus, I think people saying that they're uncomfortable listening is not a new thing.
Yeah,
they've been saying it for a long time. So that would be playing on in her head as well, where she's in spaces, she's probably thinking like, people can see this dynamic that I'm feeling, which is just making it 10 times worse in her head. So I don't know, it's just sad.
Yeah, I think you're right. Like, just knowing, like, obviously we're in a podcast ourselves, and we can like very much attest to like how hard it is behind the scenes.
I was gonna say we should even like we can speak on that as well. Like, firstly, I wanted to ask you, do you think it's easier doing it with like a friend or with like randoms?
I feel like it'd be easier doing it with a friend. Randoms is just crazy because it's like you don't know them. Like, you don't know what their opinions are going to be on things. Like, you don't know what their...
Which could also make good content.
It could. I mean, yeah, it could. And obviously you don't have that, like, that awkwardness of being friends and having to try and carry that, because that's something that I've really struggled with us. I think trying to maintain a friendship, like a proper one, outside of the podcast, because we are catching up like fucking like all the 2-3 times a week for the podcast, and then trying
talking,
to make time to like just be like friends is hard, but we always like make sure to like catch up and shit before we start recording or whatever. So in a way it could be easier, but you form a friendship while you're recording anyway. Yeah. Like, that's obviously what happened with the girls. The gal? What do you think?
I don't know. I think a friendship obviously is easier in a way, because it's like, that's your friend, and like obviously there's obviously love there. It's just easier to do it because you know each other, like how you bounce off each other, all of that stuff. The hard part is like when it comes to like, one, maintaining a friendship, two, dividing things, and like doing it in a way that is like, I need like having like business conversations. It's very hard to switch from friendship to business, because if I don't know you like that, it's like, yo,
straight
get
up.
this done. Like, I don't feel the need to like tiptoe around, and I don't feel the need to like say things in a way that's going to be like, you're a colleague, like work is work, we understand that work is work. When you're doing it with a friend, it's like, I am trying to preserve my friendship before anything. I'm not trying to ruin a friendship over this thing. I would rather know when to move on than to be like, and I think sometimes it can be hard because you're like, I don't want to, I just want to be very careful with how I do things. And sometimes when it comes to doing a business or having something that's so consistent, it's not always easy to have those conversations with friends, because it's uncomfortable. You're talking about like, especially when it gets to like other things like contracts, or money's not really like, I think money can be a problem with some people, but obviously when you like, we don't have that issue because I feel like we understand each other really well, but it's like that can be a problem, just like dividing tasks and like, like openly being like, I need you to pull up here, or what's going on, and things like that. Like, it can be very sticky to have those conversations with friends, and it's like, you just don't want to. I've seen like the ugly side of mixing business and friendship, and how people just feel like people violate some friends. Like, again, I think we understand each other, because when I see obviously we have our issues, and we can go into that too, but it's like not deeply, but we can talk about how like it's not always a smooth sailing thing. Like, yes, we're cute and everything from the outside, but it's like we have our fights, or we have times where we're up and down. But I've seen stuff where I'm like, how is this your friend? Examples where some people just violate, and it's like, you have not contributed to this. I don't know. It was a video that went out a while ago, and this guy was doing that, and it's like, you're just not showing up. You're not taking this seriously, but you're trying to profit off it, and you're trying to do all this, but you're not like doing anything, and you're just, you know, taking advantage of me as a friend or whatever. So I feel like mixing business with a friend can get really sticky.
Yeah, I think that it's hard to say which one is better. Actually, like now
it's
going
so
into
hard.
it with a friend, like
it's really hard.
It is very hard. The only thing with doing it with someone like and you're close to, is that at least like, well, unless you're like a really fucked up person, you can know that their best interests are like, they're considering your best interests, because they love you, they respect you, they care about you. They're always trying, like, if you have that type of relationship. Obviously that's not always the case, and that can be like comforting, and then that can push you to work through the bullshit.
1000%.
If it is like someone, you know, a random person or someone that you're just doing this with, it could be easier to just like bounce,
literally,
because it's kind of like, this is too hard, I'm like moving on to the next person. But there's so many, you have to have such there's so much to consider before going into it with a friend. I would say there's a lot of things that you would have to seriously sit and think about.
You have to be willing to, first of all, you need to figure out if that person is like a sane person. Like, I think there's a lot of that too, where it's like, actually look at the characteristics of this person, because sometimes people are like, you know, might be a great friend, but they're actually very selfish or not very self-aware, or, you know, their heart is not in the right place for what they're doing, and that can also be a problem. But what you said, genuinely, like, we will have our issues, and I will think about that. I'm like, you know what though, like, I know Rahal's intention, and I know our friendship, and I know this, so I'm always like, this is not like some like, you know what I mean, like,
some like
spiteful or like just like careless thing. It's just the situation that we're in, you know. Yes. But just to like, there's not really a lot to say, but just for people that do ever wonder, it's like, we have our ups and downs. Regardless of that, we like, there are moments where it's like, we just link up, we do our work, and we go home. And it can be hard to maintain a friendship, because a lot of the times it's podcast. Have you done this? Have you done that? Our dynamic can also be like, obviously we have I feel like we've got two different personalities. You know, I'm very much more I feel like if I had to choose between introvert and extrovert, I'm more extroverted
in a way.
In a way, because I do feel like I don't like being around too many people all the time, but I'm more extroverted, and like, I guess a bit more like high energy, someone who's always like out and about doing a lot of things. Then I feel like you're the more introverted one, and so there's obviously that shift. How little things about even just like our upbringings and everything are really different, so we come, and that's a blessing on this show, but then also our skill set, like, we have different things of what we studied, what we're interested in, and sometimes this is like, this platform will require certain things more than other things, and then we've had, like, I feel like our tips come from that, where it's like, one person is doing this, one person is doing that, but it's never like, one thing that saves us, I feel like, is our constant communication.
I agree, and I think that that's something that took work and time though, because I think like when we started, it was like, oh, let's start a podcast, you know what I mean, and like, because we have good conversations, and we have different perspectives, and we care about the same topics, so it was just easy, like talk, but then obviously like work comes and responsibilities come, and you start to see the skills, and you start to see what you need to put into, and you need to make sure that your work ethic and like things are matching, and I think that was really hard to kind of figure out. And I think it's still something, like, I mean, honestly, like, that we struggle with, but it's just about like talking, it's about like stepping up when you can, it's about like figuring out what what's important and like what your priorities are. And just having like empathy and understanding for the other person's like experiences, instead of just taking more of a selfish mindset where it's like, I feel this way, this is unfair, she doesn't understand, so fuck that. You know, like I think there's a lot more that goes into it, because honestly there are always two perspectives and two sides, especially when like we're two individuals with different upbringings, different work ethics, different values, different priorities, different things we want for the future. So fucking the more I talk about it, I'm like, props to us.
Period. Honestly, I feel like we do like, a lot. It's not like, that's honestly, and then you think about like, it's just the more you're trying to like, things are just going to grow. You grow as people, and it's just about working around that and figuring out what, like, I feel like constant communication is the key to all of it, and also giving a shit. Like if you don't care about that person, then you kind of, you're just gonna see where it takes you. I feel like you need to check in with each other, play to each other's strengths, and then just like try to preserve your friendship over everything. And that can look like a lot of things. Like with these girls, it's letting it go. Sometimes, like I said, the answer is, for them it was letting it go. It just happened in a sour way, instead of it being like a more kind of natural, like, okay, this was kind of gonna happen anyway type of thing. So it's just it's a sticky situation.
It is.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, maintaining like a friendship would be ideal, obviously. That's, for them, like, it didn't really end up happening, which is such a shame. But that's business, and like, it's not as easy as people think. Like, people can talk about the situation and be like, oh, like, this was so awkward and they left her out and they're bullies, but then she didn't say anything, you know. But it's like, it is so much harder when you're in it. Like, so it is not easy. Like, this shit is not easy. So that's why, like, I was very careful to be like, I don't see it good and bad. I just see like a really hard situation with different personalities. And that's where it's like, you know, maybe that's what you should think about when entering a podcast with someone. Are you okay to like be quieter? Are you okay with jumping on with someone that's like very extroverted and like very outgoing and talkative, that may not give you space unless you fight for it? Like, that's just it. If you're not willing to do that, then like, you either need to accept that situation, bring it up, talk to them and be like, I need space, you're not giving me space. If that doesn't change, then it's probably the best situation is to just like let it be. And that's she probably got to that stage, but then was like, I can't be bothered. Like,
also I feel like it's like figuring out your where you're trying to go, because if these girls are like, I want to do this, and this girl is like, well, I'm kind of, you have to have the same vision for where you're trying to go. And this is not just with podcasting, I think it's with business in general. And I feel like you see that dynamic with people where it's like, clearly you weren't trying to go that way, or like doesn't align with your values or whatever. So if you don't get that right from the start, you can't really be surprised later of what happens. It's just like, yeah,
absolutely.
Guys, let this be a lesson for people out there that want to start a pod. It's like the case study for them. I swear there's so many of these that are out there, but
we're all going through it. It reminds me of like, it's like the 90s when all the like little pop bands would break up. It's like our version, but we're like, it's all podcasts. That's what it is. That's what we're going through right now.
Damn,
2024 is like, I just feel like this is a different year,
babes. It's a year of change.
Like, it's just
the year of transition. Do you know what I mean? Weird. It's like, it is weird, but I feel like there's something beautiful about it too, because I don't think it's like, oh, Milenna's gone and she's like gone. Like, this girl is now, I'm gonna go explore myself, and I'm a singer and I do this. And I think like it gets ugly before it gets like really, really beautiful. And I think this is the year where a lot of people are like, I'm going to go hard with what I'm doing. I'm going to make changes. I'm going to figure this out. I don't know. There's we're going hard in 2024 year.
It's giving that.
That's what it's giving. So I feel like we're going to see a lot of like beautiful things come out of this. You know, it's just, change is scary.
Change is scary, as we said last week. Scary.
Yeah,
but it's necessary.
It's necessary.
Sometimes it is necessary. You just have to make a decision or change it or whatever, but you have to act. Huh?
I'm gasping. It's so true.
Sometimes it's just the case.
Oh my God.
Can't stay stagnant. You cannot.
You can't. Like there's a point where you're just like, your body's just like, let's hurry up.
Yeah.
Let's
it's like
do
you
something.
feel like if your values aren't aligning with what you're doing, it's time to change. Or like doesn't always have to be drastic, but
but it's best to do it like there was one of them that said, like, I think you said it too, but she said something that I'm very big on not saying something that I can't repeat, or saying something that I can't. That was not her, that was my mum.
No.
She was like,
your mum, of course.
My mum said that to me. She said, don't ever say something that you cannot repeat to the person again. And I think it's like, don't ever do something that you're going to regret later. Yeah. And I think in this situation, it's like, you know, you just want to make sure you cut ties on a good note, that you can always like say what you said with your chest, and like you leave things. It's always peace, choose peace, always. And I don't think it's always easy, but you know, that's a challenge for yourself. Like try to control yourself or whatever it is. But yeah, I don't know. Wish them all the best.
Yes.
All right, let's wrap up the episode here. Thank you guys for tuning in. Let us know your thoughts on this dilemma. I think it's an interesting.
It is an interesting
one. So we'll leave it here. Thank you guys for tuning in. We'll see you again next week.
Bye.
Peace.